G'day, it's Ron from L-Shot Design and welcome to another shed build. Now in the first shed build video I went into all the detail around the costs and the forms you had to fill out. This build's going to be a lot quicker. We're doing an open bay shed this time to store all the farm equipment you can see here that's making a big mess. So we'll step through this one a bit quicker and I'll share a few tips along the way. But bear in mind I'm not a professional, this is just a DIY perspective. So take from it what you can and good luck with your shed. Let's go and jump in and take a look at the site.
Step 1. Site planning. Every site's different, but here's a few things to consider. I've got a gum tree nearby, but I'm avoiding any earthworks under its drip zone, since disturbing the soil there can harm the tree. This site's exposed to wind, so I'm placing a wall to face that prevailing wind direction. It's rocky here, but a 16-tonne excavator carved out a tennis court sized flat space in half a day. Step 2. Concreting. It's been a few years since my last shed build and I can say the price of concrete has doubled. This slab cost around $9,000 for a 7.5 by 7.5 metre, including everything from formwork to finish. This shed has 8 footings under the columns, each 450 by 600 deep. Make it clear for the concreters where the slab edges are, especially if you won't be there to supervise. The blue lines here show exactly where the slab edges are, so the concreters know where to lay formwork. Timing was good since we had a family holiday right after the pour, giving it a solid 2 to 3 weeks to cure. I wouldn't advise sending dynabolts into the slab edge any sooner than 2 weeks. Step 3. Truss assembly. The first step is laying everything out to check lengths and materials. Make sure you understand how everything lines up with the engineering plans. For example, pre-drilled hole spacing differs at each end. After orienting the trusses, I'm half drilling Tek screws at specific intervals along the top edge. This will face the sky, and the screws will come into play later when we lay in the roofing top hats. Measure spacing accurately, as you'll need to know where these top hats are for roofing. Using the slab, I'll measure a template to get consistent angles for each truss. Start by Tek screwing the apex bracket, which holds it together so you can add bolts. I ended up lifting the trusses onto their edges to make assembly easier. Engineering plans aren't step-by-step instructions, so patience and attention to detail are essential. If you're confused, examine the plans and bill of materials closely. For instance, this kit has 4 trusses with a double truss in the middle, and I didn't notice straight away that the middle 2 trusses install back to back. Next, I attach a cross brace to the centre, finishing the trusses for now. Step 4. The right drills.
There's a couple of tools I wanted to get for this build. Previously, I've relied on the old Makita hammer drill for masonry drilling, and it's okay for small stuff, but just gets hot and it's just not very fun. And if you hit any Rio mesh, it chokes up and just bluntens the bits. So I went out to our local hardware store and got this rotary hammer drill. Now this is just an Azito brand, so it's just a pretty cheap brand, but for something you're not using very often, it's totally fine. 1500 watts, takes the SDS Plus bits, so you can drop them in. Now this thing is so much better than the old Makita. Very glad I bought this. I will use it. Highly recommend getting one of these if you're going to be drilling a few holes in concrete slabs. The other thing I bought for this build is this clutch driving drill. Now this is a bit pricey at $400 just for the skin. However, it's designed specifically for screwing Tek screws into metal. Now the reason for that is it's set at the right RPM for that task. It's also got this clutch assembly at the front, which allows you to very quickly dial in the torque setting based on how thick the material is that you're screwing into. Now in the past I've used this impact driver, which is extremely noisy, but it's also just got too much power. You'll often shear screws with this thing. So that's the benefit of this clutch. And the other good thing about this drill is it's got quite a comfortable grip, so you can operate it with one hand, which is important when you're up a ladder or up on the roof. The only thing I don't like about this particular model is the direction control button here. It's quite flimsy, it's easy to bump. And the other thing is, because of the weight of the front of the drill with the clutch assembly, will tilt forward very easily. It only just balances. That's kind of annoying when you're up a ladder trying to balance the thing on a ladder. But yeah, I mean, I'm not sponsored by DeWalt, but I would highly recommend a drill like this if you're doing a lot of tech screw work.
Step 5. Framing up. Next we'll pre-assemble the sidewalls, starting with the haunch brackets. I'm using one tech screw to hold the brackets temporarily so I can tilt them up and add the bolts. For this open bay design, the centre columns double up, so bolts go through all the holes. I use clamps to hold pieces in place temporarily and mark the slab to know where the columns stand. Don't forget to offset the columns for the 64mm thickness of the top hat wall girts so the wall sheeting can hang over the edge of the slab. When bolting in base plates, make sure you're on the right side. Sometimes they go inside the channel and sometimes outside. Now I align the walls to join them with top hats. Start with just one screw at each fixture point to adjust the frame and ensure it's square by measuring diagonals. With only one screw at each point, it allows you to adjust the overall shape before locking it off with additional screws. Measure intervals for the top hats, and if including a window, set top hats at the desired height on either side of the window frame. There's no windows here, so I'm simply dividing the space equally. Top hats should overlap by about 10% of their overall length. Step 6. Raising walls. I've got ropes ready to help secure the walls once they're standing, and I've run through the sequence in my head so I know where everything needs to be. I'm using a tractor to lift the trusses with timber offcuts clamped to the bucket. Most people will use a scissor lift. For this shed size, lifting the trusses only took a couple of hours. A half-day scissor lift rental would likely be enough, which could save a few dollars. I had a third person help here. From experience, I know these frames are heavier than they appear. My wife and son held the ends while I secured the wall to pickets. I decided to brace the walls with lengths of timber so the walls are supported from falling in both directions. We get them as plumb as possible and make sure the column feet are lined up on the chalk lines. Now I'm installing the dyno bolts for the feet. I use a bit of fuel hose to blow out the dust. It gets windy up here, so I've replaced some of the dyno bolts with longer galvanised ones. Next step is lowering the trusses into the haunch brackets and tightening the bolt just enough to hold everything in place until the end mullions are plumb and secured to the end wall truss. Then add the remaining trusses. I get the roofing top hats in next, which really starts to hold everything together. The last framing step involves adding top hats to the end wall using angle brackets, since these mullions are flush with the slab's back edge. For this shed, there's a double truss and column set up in the middle, like a mirror image. My strategy involved lowering one truss first, then adding the second one later. This was far easier than trying to lower a heavy double truss onto haunch brackets that face opposite ways. I used timber to hold everything in place so I could safely remove the bolts from the first truss, add the second truss, then bolt through both together before removing the timber bracing. Step 7. Wall sheets. It's easy to install sheets with an extra set of hands. My wife helped, and we had to work around the windiest time of the year, which often meant running out at dusk and getting a few sheets up on calmer evenings. Fix screws from edge to edge. If you try and do a first row horizontally, the sheets are more likely to warp and won't overlap properly. Keep the tops of each sheet slightly lower than the upper edge to ensure smooth roof insulation later. Sheets will hang over the slab edge, but shouldn't touch the ground. Wind can be a big issue with sheeting. Plan for calm days, especially if relying on help. This shed is quite exposed, so wind over 20 k's per hour was too dangerous. Step 8. Flashing. You can do all the flashing after the roofing, but I made a start while waiting for the wind to die down. You can see here that the flashing provided doesn't extend far enough. I had some spare iron, so ran some extra lengths around the front edge. Step 9. Roofing. Lay the sheets so the overlaps face away from the prevailing wind. I did this for the wall sheets too. We ran air cell insulation first by taping the end to the outside of one wall, rolling it out over the top, and pinning it down on the other side. Then working my way along, install the sheets much like the wall sheets. The screw intervals are in your plan and differ based on your area. Finally, add the ridge cap, then sweep any swarf off to avoid corrosion or contamination if you're catching the water. Step 10. Gutters. After finishing flashing, I trimmed insulation and prepped the gutters. Start with the end caps, securing each with rivets and sealing with silicone. Installing brackets was straightforward. Clip the top edge of the gutter over the bracket ends, then rotate to snap the gutters in. We aimed for a 4mm per metre fall, about 30mm overall for the 7.5 metre gutter. Finally, I added a bit of custom flashing for a cleaner look where the barge capping meets at the peak.
We built up the front here with some recycled concrete. Luckily around here you can get this stuff, it's 14 mils, and it crushes down quite nice and holds together. And I've swept in 2 bags of cement into this as well and just wet it down. And it's nice and hard. I think it'll hold. May need to top it up over time.
Well, that's it. We've got a water tank on order, so the plumbing can be finalised later. I'll build some shelving for farm equipment, and we can finally free up the carport next to the house for guest parking. Thanks for watching. My channel focuses more on building things inside sheds, so if you're interested in that, check out my other videos and consider subscribing.